Okay, let me wait. Let me put it. Let me put it this way. Let me put it this way. Okay. As you know, um, I have seen already the mole, the 2 episodes of mole. You know what I mean? So let's see what happens, huh? Let's see what happens. Okay, let's see.
I'm Eric Voss, and this is a breakdown of Star Wars MAUL Shadow Lord Episode 1, The Dark Revenge, and Episode 2, Sinister Schemes. I'm going to break down both of these episodes scene by scene for the animation details, Star Wars Easter eggs, and connections that you might have missed. Before we begin, New Rockstars has a ton of great Star Wars inspired designs, like our new MAUL lightsaber schematic design, available exclusively at our merch store, nerdriot.shop. You can grab one for yourself or that special nerd in your life and support our channel directly. Episode 1, The Dark Revenge, opens with the Star Wars Disney Plus fanfare that shows lightsabers glowing across metallic helmets and droid heads that we always see on these shows that get updated title to title. This one actually begins with a red lightsaber glow because MAUL, and among the many faces we see are the Inquisitor known as the 11th brother. We first saw this dude in Tales of the Jedi Episode 6 back in 2022, voiced by Clancy Brown. He burns a farming village while seeking Ahsoka Tano and ends up dying in a duel against her. Those events though are set after the events of this series. And then we see the Inquisitor known as the First Brother, or Marok, the Inquisitor from the Ahsoka series, returning in an earlier era of his life in this series. He's going to be voiced by AJ Locascio, who voiced Gambit on X-Men 97. Now remember, the Ahsoka series is set something like 27 years in the future from where we are now in this series, and when Ahsoka fights Marok on Cetos, she slices him and he spills out as a green fart cloud that many have suspected was actually just Night Sister magic of a reanimated corpse, since Marok on that show did serve Night Sister Morgan Elsbeth. So we might see the guy's original body die the first time on this series. And then lastly, there's Two Boots, or TBOT, the police droid partner to Captain Lawson, voiced by Richard Ayoade, who also voiced the droid Zero in The Mandalorian Season 2. So we the metallic blast of the score, composed once again by the amazingly talented Kiner family. We see aerial shots of a cityscape planet surface, organized interestingly in circular designed cities. This planet is Janix. EP and writer of this episode, Matt Mishnovitz,
thank you, Yanis. I didn't know
Janix
that.
as, quote, one part Gotham, one part Metropolis, and 100% Star Wars, with all of these different levels and layers. But the Gotham influence might come from the Oscar-winning art direction of the matte paintings of Gotham in the opening shots of 1989's Batman, because this show's artist, Joel Aaron, said that he actually painted brushstrokes on glass and photographed them so that they could be inserted into the animation, and he created matte paintings on physical canvases rather than making them with digital tools. And you can really see that texture on all the buildings in every shot of this show. Now, this story has been cited as taking place a few short years into the reign of the Galactic Empire, and I'm clocking it as sometime between 18 BBY and 17 BBY. Trailers show us specifically TK troopers, which were
1 year after Order 66 is what we know.
Were the transitional stormtroopers between clone troopers and the recruited stormtroopers that were only used by the Empire in this initial period. The animated Maul that we're following on the series is voiced by Sam Witwer, who took over the character in 2012 in the 4th season of Clone Wars, revealing that the Sith survived his bisection by Obi-Wan Kenobi on Naboo in The Phantom Menace, and then lost his mind with robotic spider legs in a trash heap in Lotho Minor. He was later found by his brother Savage Opress, also voiced by Clancy Brown. And then after getting dark magic empowered robotic legs from their mother Talzin, the two Knight brothers joined forces with the Death Watch of Mandalore and formed the Shadow Collective to rival the power of the Sith, comprising the Death Watch, Black Sun, the Pike Syndicate, and briefly the Hutt Cartel. The Shadow Collective took over Mandalore, and Maul and Savage betrayed Pre Vizsla of the Death Watch and beheaded him with the Darksaber. And then they killed Duchess Satine right in front of Kenobi. But right after this, as Maul was getting too powerful, Darth Sidious arrived and killed Savage and captured his former apprentice Maul. So Maul's future beyond this MAUL Shadow Lord series was explored in the Rebels series, when Maul crosses paths with Ezra Bridger and Ahsoka Tano, and he actually seems pretty afraid of Darth Vader when Vader shows up on Malachor, suggesting a past between Maul and Vader that could be explored on this show. In Rebels Season 3, Maul is part of how the Darksaber ends up getting in the hands of Sabine Wren, and then Maul ultimately dies in a short duel with Kenobi in the Twin Sons episode. We also learned from the 2018 Solo: A Star Wars movie that Maul will, several years after this series, end up in charge of the Crimson Dawn crime syndicate. But when Clone Wars was revived for a 7th and final season on Disney Plus in 2020, the final 4 episodes showed how Maul returned to take over Mandalore a second time right around the events of Order 66. At this point, he had the help of some remaining Mandalorian Death Watch loyalists of his Shadow Collective, including Rook Kast, many of these Mandos wearing Beskar armor crowned to look like Maul's Zabrak horns. This was part of Maul's renewed attempt to get revenge on Kenobi. But yes, this was during the events of Revenge of the Sith, so Obi-Wan obviously went to say hello there to General Grievous on Utapau. So Maul and his forces were instead confronted by Ahsoka Tano in Bo-Katan, and Ahsoka ended up defeating Maul in a visually stunning duel. But while departing Mandalore, while on board the Tribunal, the clone troopers of Ahsoka's 332nd Company get activated by Order 66 and turn on her. While Ahsoka toils to disable Rex's brain chip, she lets Maul escape, and the two briefly work together to fight off the clone troopers, and Ahsoka reluctantly releases her force pull from the new class attack transport shuttle that Maul had hijacked, allowing Maul to jump into hyperspace. And that's the last time we saw this era of Maul, and we're now about a year or two after that. So here on Janix, we see a band of 5 thieves scaling down a building, planning to heist huge stacks of credits. They're aided by Spybot. This guy's got a big personality. He often just talks to himself.
Yo,
I watched this robot. He's insane for real.
And giggles. He's a little shit and I love him. Here he says knock knock after hacking the door control panel. Now the robbers of this group include 2 Zabrak males. Icarus, he's the one who wears the face mask, voiced by Dave Fennoy. We gotta assume he's gonna fly too close to the sun at some point with a name like Icarus and get himself killed. And his brother Scorn, voiced by Steve Bloom, who actually voices Zeb on Rebels, Mandalorian Season 3, and the upcoming Mandalorian Grogu movie. Like Maul and his brother Savage, these are just 2 more Zabrak brothers who stick together. Maul and Savage had a 3rd brother named Farrell, so Scorn is just more consistent with the kind of nomenclature Knight brothers love to have. Leading this group is Rook Kast, voiced by Vanessa Marshall. Rook Kast was first introduced in the 2014 Son of Dathomir storyline, but then she appeared in animation fighting alongside Maul when he tried to retake Mandalore in the Clone Wars final season, appeared in episodes 9 and 10 of that 7th season. She fought Bo-Katan and the Republic-aligned Mandalorians until Maul's forces were just overwhelmed.
Yeah, but
presumably Rook got arrested and all that, but I guess Maul would have broken her out while he was recruiting some of these Knight brothers. There are also 2 other Mandalorian allies who must have also been part of Rook's group in Clone Wars Season 7. Later on in their hideout, we see there are a lot more Mandalorians from that group who are working with Maul currently.
There are more
we see that
Mandalorians.
they steal a relatively small number of credits, but more importantly, the bank supervisor protocol droid, and use that droid as a body shield because they only need its head for Maul's dramatic plan later. This opening heist to me mirrors the opening heist of Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight. Yeah, the Gotham parallels, right? Because 1, it's not about the money, it's about turning the rival criminal factions of the city against each other. 2, it involves cable wires, kind of like the zip lines
and it worked.
Shots of The Dark Knight, but also like the Joker gang's cables that snare up the helicopters and the later truck flipping sequence. And then 3, it's 5 thieves with a mystery 6th thief who's actually running the whole thing, just like the clown robbers in the Dark Knight opening scene. When Spybot shoots the cops, he says, "Booyah!" And while the TDF surrounds Rook and the others, stepping off the larger, more menacing ship are the robotic legs of a familiar foe, scored with the same iconic Duel of the Fates vocals.
Bro, I love that
Doors
intro.
open on him before his duel with Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon on Naboo in The Phantom Menace. Maul ignites his blade, both ends of it, and he twirls it, deflecting all the fire. You'll notice his lightsaber blades are more fiery than when we last saw them in Clone Wars Season 7. For the art design of this series, Dave Filoni said, quote, "I wanted the style to be a bit more aggressive, a bit more edgy, a bit more painterly than everything we had done. I wanted the renders to be reflective of Maul and his aggressive nature. Everything's a bit more chewed, a little bit more expressive than it was in Bad Batch and Clone Wars before it. So it's an extension of that style, but just a little bit more intense." Sam Witwer said that many of the people who worked with him on the Force Unleashed game came back to work on this series, which explains what he called the symmetry between the action of the 2 titles. The title part of this series blazes as a fire and then gets kind of scratched out like dirt being kicked over a flame to snuff it. We meet 2 fugitive Jedi, Devon Izara, a Twi'lek female voiced by Gideon Adlon, and her master Iko Diodaki, voiced by Dennis.
Okay, so maybe we will see in this also in this series a new part of the Order 66 because they both escape.
Haysbert. They debate stealing food, and Iko is a little too optimistic for a fugitive being hunted by Inquisitors, saying they can rely on the kindness of strangers. Yeah, right, dude. Especially when a stranger greets you like this.
Pardon, would you be so kind?
Ichuta. The
Ichuta.
Huttese slur meaning gonna like off. First heard in The Empire Strikes Back, directed at C-3PO on Cloud City.
Ichuta. How rude.
So Devin gets
Oh.
arrested for stealing food, a decision to break the
Wow.
law that could show the audience she might be vulnerable to MAUL's manipulations. Then we meet Captor Brander Lawson, voiced by the amazing Oscar nominee Wagner Moura. He gets this dramatic hair wipe gesture. He actually does it a few times in these first 2 episodes.
Oy.
He investigates the crime scene with these droids and cops that all have the letters TDF in Orabesh, or Tactical Defense Force. They're kind of like the local cops that we saw in Andor, the Preox Morlana cops that Cyril Karn worked for, that initially the Empire was okay letting patrol these local jurisdictions before they just fascistly took over everything. And we meet the gangster Nico Demus, voiced by John Carroll Lynch. Nico might have gotten his name from the New Testament figure of Nicodemus, a Pharisee who got turned on to Jesus' teachings, venerated as a saint in some branches of Christianity. This guy is a beefy grand species, so beefy his eye stalks don't really stick out from his head. The Shadow of Maul prelude comic introduced Demus and Vario on a TDF wanted list alongside an unnamed Powan. Maybe we'll meet him later on. Spybot, watching Demus rage, just kind of laughs it off. Bookshido! I'm gonna start saying that when I cannonball into a pool. Rook asks Maul if he's had another vision, and Maul says the one he seeks is here, and he's seeing these visions the closer he gets. This sets up his approach to Devin at the end of the episode. While he's motivated by vengeance against his former criminal partners, the Force is also guiding him to an apprentice that he's destined to meet while he's on that path. Maul tells Rook that as the Empire has risen, they've all been made to suffer. Indeed, after Sidious attacked and imprisoned him at the end of his arc in Clone Wars Season 5, Maul has learned that he is as much an enemy to the Emperor and his Empire.
Yeah, he's an enemy, of course. You're powerful, bro. I'm always a savage, but now imagine. So he saw Devon. What's the name of the Jedi?
I love how Sam Witwer pronounces prospered,
Devon something.
and how the animation reflects that lip movement.
There are many who have prospered from my misfortune. The Pikes, Crimson
Dawn, Barrio. All those who were with him, they took advantage of Maul being, fighting the Emperor, the Empire, and now he's after them.
Dawn, Vario.
Maul feels that since he and his brother were the ones to form the Shadow Collective, it kind of sucks that he wasn't able to reap the financial reward of that criminal empire in this Imperial age. Maul brings back up the Pikes here, who are also part of the Shadow Collective, but he also utters Crimson Dawn, which of course is the name of Dryden Voss's criminal ring that we met in the Solo film. Solo, of course, takes place.
I didn't saw Solo.
And it ends by revealing that Maul at that point was now running Crimson Dawn. We did see Dryden Voss in a holo call standing.
Yeah, we saw. That's the Black Suns in the left, and the
next to the Pike leader.
Oh, that's the one.
in
Okay.
Clone Wars Season 7, Episode 10. So this series seems like it's going to connect the dots to how Maul came to overtake the Crimson Dawn. But Disney Plus just announced that Maul Shadow Lord will get a second season. So who knows if that question is going to get answered in these first 10 episodes. Two boots up some security footage showing Maul's attack.
Laser sword. Haven't seen one of those since
Two
the
lasers.
Clone Wars.
I always love it when Star Wars characters call lightsabers laser swords, like Luke did in A New Hope, Anakin in The Phantom Menace, or Din Djarin did in The Mandalorian. When Two Boots runs facial recognition, we see classified.
Classified.
Meaning this is an ISB classification. Local cop Lawson doesn't want the Imperial feds of the ISB butting in on his investigation, but we know from trailers that an Imperial Star Destroyer is going to start hovering over Janix at some point. Nico Demus meets with rival gang leader Luti Vario, voiced by longtime Star Wars voice actor Chris Diamantopoulos. Vario is an Alina species created for the Phantom Menace for the pod racing character Rex.
Oh!
He uses a droid body, but as we'll see later, he's just got a smaller body that's tucked in there. They dine in this neutral territory that Vario says looks like a Wookiee bathhouse. That's pretty cruel slander for a species that's currently being forced to work in Imperial labor camps. Vario waits for Demus to drink first after they exchange this toast.
Chobasa.
Choba.
This reminds me of the Chandrillan toast from Andor, Sagrona, which is just the greeting, meant by a return toast of Sagrona Tima, or a toast to your health. We saw that in Season 1, Episode 8, the Narkina 5 episode, and then it came up again in Andor Season 2, Episode 2, the wedding episode that was titled Sagrona Tima. So maybe just the tone or the shorter version that Demus gives back is what gives Vario pause initially. The meal that Vario is served kind of looks like chicken parmesan, but the final course is the severed head of the bank droid, which must have been planted there by Maul's group to get the droid to stutter, Demus will make you pay. And that stutter was why Spybot chuckled earlier at her stutter. And it just gets Demus and Vario confused as they start shooting at each other. Nerds know that you can be a nerd about multiple things at once. Being a nerd just means being so excited about something that just seeing it can bring you joy. And one of the things we're nerds about is dogs. That's right, we're dog nerds here at New Rockstars. We love our dogs. We share pictures of our dogs with each other constantly, and we want our dogs to have the best, longest lives possible. That's why we feed them Sundays for Dogs. Sundays is fresh dog. And since hopping out of his droid body and drink just Lawson and code new Rockstars at checkout to get 50% off your first order.
Episode 2, right?
Character moments with Lawson and Two Boots as Lawson cracks his shoulder and Two Boots holds a cup of calf that he can't drink just so he can share a moment with the captain. But Vario gets to jump on Timus by hopping out of his droid body, making him unsuspectedly shorter, shooting the big guy 4 times through the gut. This leads to a chase of Vario through a tunnel. Icarus fires a heavy repeating blaster at the driver. Then Vario jumps off and reveals his droid body, has a flamethrower addition. Scorn nearly kills Vario, but Lawson's forces arrive and they arrest Vario. Maul and his forces disappear from sight, like they often do in the series, as fast as a shadow. As Maul considers using his Shadow Lord self to get Vario at police headquarters, he walks back up to his thinking corner and says that taking this step is guided by something else.
Our actions serve a greater purpose.
Spybot floats up to him and kind of purrs when Maul strokes him. Considering we have been hearing Spybot talk, saying booyah and hee hee hee, and like, man, Dave is so mad. It's a little weird that he's now acting like a loft cat. Vario name drops the Shadow Collective, but Captain Lawson's like, dude, I wasn't in Clone Wars. After stuffing Vario in a cell across from Devin, Two Boots again suggests calling in the Empire for backup, and I'm a little worried this droid is gonna start prematurely inviting Inquisitors to this party. I don't trust this droid. During all of this, Iko Diodaki sits outside the jail, even through the rain, almost as if he's being guided by the same force current that Maul is. I love the transition as we follow the rainfall to the runoff cascade down on the sewer level to show where Maul's hideout is. Maul's group infiltrates the TDF facility. The Zabrak Scorn turns it in kind of a horror video game by just slowly rounding corners when the TDF flashlights go up, luring them deeper into what ends up being a kill box because his brother Icarus is right there lighting them up with a heavy repeating blaster. He loves that weapon. Spybot locks some of the doors and zaps Two Boots when he tries to out-hack him. A little internal reference there. The famous Dennis Nedry automated warning from Jurassic Park.
Yeah, Jurassic Park.
Lawson runs into Maul, who force pulls his blaster out of his hand, similar to what Darth Vader does to Han Solo on Cloud City in Empire Strikes Back. But Maul does not kill him, which is interesting because he doesn't seem worried about killing anyone else. The Zabrak brothers lay down cover fire as Maul leaps in front of them in the corridor, ducking beneath Scorn's fire, and then does this really cool move where he runs up the side of the wall, leaving a melted lightsaber trail in his wake. When Maul passes her cell, Devin closes her eyes, and the sound effect closed caption reads, muffled lightsaber humming. I assume it's a sound of Maul's saber on just the other side of the door, but maybe it's her own memory of Order 66, because obviously she and Iko Diodaki survived somehow. We don't know where they were at the Purge, but you know, every Jedi who's alive right now has some kind of traumatic memory of Order 66. Maul threatens Vario with his red saber, and only when
of course they are hunting you.
Vario offers to take him to Krim does Maul retract his blade. Krim, of course, refers to the family Pikes led by Patriarch Marg Krim, Maul's main contact for the Pikes in the Shadow Collective. He last appeared via hologram in Season 7, Episode 10 of Clone Wars, right next to the hologram of Dryden Voss. Maul senses the person he's been seeking and turns to Devin in her cell. He opens the door as the red light fills the room and his horned shadow engulfs her like he's Nosferatu. This episode ends with the first utterance of the title character's name.
Maul. Yeah.
To a Jedi alive during this era of history, Darth Maul would have been an iconic boogeyman that they had heard stories about as the Sith who came out of nowhere, who killed Master Qui-Gon, who was then defeated by Obi-Wan Kenobi. As she'll say in episode 2, she's heard the stories, and I just like that he's this kind of ghostly figure that the Jedi at the temple had talked about, and even surviving Jedi after the temple fell are still afraid of. This miniseries is of course called Maul Shadow Lord, and I love that these final shots make him literally a shadow. This whole idea of pairing Maul with a Twi'lek apprentice has been in the mix for a long time at Lucasfilm. In 2020, Screen Rant reported on the book The Star Wars Archives 1999 to 2005 that reportedly included an old plan from George Lucas for a possible sequel trilogy. This was before Disney's sequel trilogy that started with The Force Awakens, that would have brought back Darth Maul as a quote godfather of crime with a Twi'lek apprentice. George Lucas at one point even suggested that that apprentice could be Darth Talon, a Twi'lek Sith developed for the 2006 Star Wars Legacy comic that took place a century before the prequels, but the character was just so beloved that they considered bypassing the timeline issue to bring her into the present. Now the idea of Maul as a crime lord was of course instead repurposed.
So I fear that Maul will take down his master, her master of Devon,
into Maul's
the Jedi girl.
Shadow Collective arc in the animated Clone Wars series in 2012 and 2013. But then in the 2017 Maul comic run by Cullen Bunn and Luke Ross, which was set a year before the events of The Phantom Menace, we learned that Darth Maul had found a Jedi Padawan, a Twi'lek named Eldra Cadis, and freed her from an auction. Despite working together to escape their pursuers, Maul and Cadis eventually duel and Maul kills her, noting that she would have made a good Sith. So this whole idea of a horned Zabrak head contrasting the sleek silhouette of a Twi'lek, sharpening each other in some ways, and softening each other in others. It's just been the visual imagination of George Lucas and Dave Filoni for at least the past 20 years. And now, 2 decades later, we are finally exploring it. On to episode 2, Sinister Schemes. This episode opens with just a great action shot of Devon dragged down the ladder by Scorn as the camera swoops up past Vario, Icarus firing upward, and Maul leaning out of the way of that fire and then swinging back over them, all while spinning his saber to protect the rest. Maul slices one TDF droid in half, letting it fall just like his bisected halves did in Naboo. Devon kicks free from Scorn but gets hit with a blue stun blast from Spybot. The group now splits off into 2 transports, and 2 Boots hijacks a civilian vehicle to pursue them. Iko Diodaki sees the chase and senses Devon, leaps down, flipping the first transport and planting a staff in the ground that reminded me of Yoda in Attack of the Clones confronting Dooku. Even the way the Dark Force user gets out of it is similar. Dooku rained debris on Anakin and Obi-Wan. Maul collapses a pedestrian walkway knowing that Io Diodaki is too much of a softie and feel too compelled to protect the innocent. The last civilian who nearly falls is an Ithorian, maybe the same Ithorian that was haggling with the vendor when Devon got arrested in episode 1. Maul tells Rook why he wants Devon.
She is a Jedi, and I shall fashion her into a weapon which can help us destroy
Like he in Savage,
all those who have betrayed me,
including Darth Sidious.
Darth Sidious.
Interesting that Maul doesn't openly say here that Emperor Palpatine is Darth Sidious. He knows that the two are actually the same person, and it's a secret that only a tiny number of people know here. Sam Witwer even questioned this in an interview in the past.
Maul, through all those years, knows exactly who the Sith Lord is. He could go to a phone booth, call up the Jedi and say, "It's Palpatine," and hang up the phone and really screw Palpatine's plans. He never does that.
No.
Palpatine killed his family. Palpatine showed no loyalty to Maul. And the moment Maul found loyalty in Savage Opress, he took that from him. So what is
Sadly.
Why did Maul maintain this loyalty? I'm saying too much.
Notice how Witwer ended by saying, "I'm saying too much," which makes me think that this series is gonna reveal why.
Yeah.
Maybe Maul is honor bound, or maybe he's waiting for the right moment when he now has his own Sith apprentice to overthrow his former Sith master.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Too, because he knows that by himself he won't be able to do it. Captain Lawson gets shoot out by his superior, Chief Kleiss. The Shadow of Maul prelude comic explores how Brander Lawson put his whole TDF unit in danger in order to out a mole. So the risk of corruption in this police unit, I think, is going to be a noir theme that's explored in this series. I'm looking sideways at you, Kleiss, and you 2 Boots. I trust none of you. Brander goes home where the place is a mess. We actually see some pizza boxes on the table. Pizza boxes and chicken parm. We're getting some great Italian cuisine on this series. Brander picks up a helmet. I actually think we saw this helmet third in the new Star Wars opening fanfare. These episodes, Riley mentions a mom that Brander still has a picture of at his work desk. I think
what happened with her mom, with his mom?
this might be one of the first examples of divorced parents that we've seen in Star Wars. Yes, there are often single parents, but usually one of the parents dies. This mom is still alive. We learn that Vario helped the Pikes and the Krim family smuggle in spice to the system, so Maul says once he disrupts the network, Mara Krim will come to meet with Vario, and that will give Maul a window to kill the Pike. I like how twice in these first 2 episodes we hear Captain Lawson's police radio going on about reports of petty theft in the entertainment district. I guess there's just a lot of pickpockets outside the Janix AMC, but I think it's those calls that remind Lawson that he has a contact in this entertainment complex, a contact named Rena Sull, who's voiced by Pamela Adlon, the longtime voice actress behind Bobby Hill on King of the Hill and various other roles, and it's her daughter Gideon who voices Devon. They toast
to Catalor.
Catalor. What a double cross.
Catalor must have been some Clone Wars era conflict where these two fought alongside each other. Rena briefs Lawson on Maul's history with the Shadow Collective on Mandalore and explicitly includes Crimson Dawn in the mix. Episode 1 showed Devon attempting theft against Iko's wishes, and it's that little rebellious spark that Maul tries to kindle here by blurring the lines of morality.
What does it mean for you to be a Jedi, guardian of peace and justice in a time of lawlessness?
I still believe in those principles.
If only there were more like you. Perhaps things wouldn't be the way they are today.
Maul's implying that since the Jedi got involved in the political affairs of the Republic and became officers in the Clone Trooper army, plus Anakin's downfall, these were all part of the Jedi generally losing their way. But let's remember, Maul is very afraid of Darth Vader, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see those two fight in this season to show why Maul's so freaked out in season 2 of Rebels. Maul claims Devon is free to leave, and he even dares her to, signaling that there is some way for Devon to escape if she can just look at the big picture. Spybot redirects the Pike spice shipment to a nearby planet in the system where Maul and the others are waiting for them. He boards their ship and slices through them like Darth Vader in Rogue One. I love the contrast to the red and green in the sequence, and I really like the way Maul suspends this Pike leader with a force grip that he releases as he slices him in half. The episode ends by returning to Devon's cell. Maul, after massacring the Pikes, now has less patience with the girl and barks at her that it is time for her to see the galaxy as it truly is. Something in his tone stirs his Twi'lek as she uses the force to try to open the hatch and fails, but she leans against the back of the cell, sees light coming in through the crack, and realizes the whole thing is an open-ended tank on rovers that's just shoved against a wall. So Devon realizes that to truly free herself is not to unlock the door that was slammed in her face, it's to move and reshape her entire context so that unlocked door doesn't even matter anymore. So what future might Devon Azara have in the future of Star Wars history? Could she appear in a newly resurrected Sith Order in the era Ahsoka takes place in, carrying on Maul's legacy in future films? New Rockstars is doing another live show at the UCB Theater on Friday, April 17th that you can watch in person if you live in the Los Angeles area, or for a discount you can buy a remote ticket and watch wherever you live. We're going to do another very fun live stage reading of A Very Bad Movie on the link in the description below. Supporting editors way Maul suspend.
Okay, great video. Let's see what happens in episode 3 or 4. Devon, that's the name of her. But of course, who knows? But for me, for example, one, maybe I'm spoiling. I don't think Maul will let her master lives. The one like a turtle. I have to go for the name again, but you know what I mean. Just in case.